Well, instead of a person dressed in robes with a wig on his or her head, in the future, a judge might be an artificial intelligence bot. One of the UK's most senior judges predicts that artificial intelligence might replace lawyers and make better decisions. Sir Geoffrey Vos, the senior civil law judge in England and Wales, predicts that the speed of technological advance makes it a real possibility that AI may become more intelligent and more capable than humans. He also believes that automated court decisions are feasible. Andrew Eborn is a broadcaster and futurist and joins me now. Welcome back
Thank
to
you,
GB
Michael.
News.
Lovely to be here.
It's good to have you. How feasible is this? What sort of decisions can AI make?
Well, first of all, it's incredibly feasible, and already the systems around the world are using this. Both Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking said it's our greatest human achievement, but potentially our biggest existential threat. AI is going to replace virtually every job that it can replace, but it's also going to make it very efficient. And what Sir Geoffrey is saying is actually he's looking at those efficiencies. He's a great advocate for embracing technology. And not everything will be able to be done by AI. Thomson Reuters have said about 9% of the large commercial firms in the UK are already using or looking at using AI to make their systems more efficient. So what it can do, the great advantage is it can analyse large amounts of data, talk about precedents, draft or do initial drafts of documents and so on and so forth. But it's got a few flaws, and some of those flaws are things like hallucinations. So what happens, they call it hallucinations in this glorious world, where it can't get an answer, it makes it up. So if you ask it for a source, it will give you a completely fictitious source. And there's been a couple of cases. Jonathan Turley, for example, is a US law professor, and he was falsely accused of sexual harassment of a student, really serious stuff. And Brian Hoop, an Australian mayor, he was apparently in prison for bribery, which he wasn't at all. But the AI bot churned this false information out. So what we need to do is to say, understand the technology, work out where it can create that great efficiency, but also have a few caveats.
But I can't believe that we've devised a technology that goes off on its own and we can't work out where it's made things up. This is implausible to me.
Well, it's really difficult. Like any information that regurgitates, and that's effectively what it's doing, it is dependent on making sure you've got the right sort of filters. So there's a company called Case Tech, which has got this system called Co-Counsel, where the AI bot doesn't know the answer, rather than making something up, it has to alert, say, I don't really know what the answer is. And it's quite interesting. I played around with it and I even asked it today what its own limitations were. And it said, well, it can't obviously do advocacy in court. It can't have the sort of human interaction that a lawyer would have with their clients. And it's rather, I guess, best in analogies like in a criminal case. You would have the jury decides the facts, but the judge decides the law. And I think if you look at it on that sort of basis, it's incredibly powerful for making sure you can cut through all that sort of administrative side. And China, for example, China's Academy of Engineering, they claim that AI, their use of AI, has reduced their workload by about a third. And they claim that between 2019 and 2021, they've saved $45 billion as a result. Well, it's a claim. We can have a look at that sort of side. But certainly think we need to embrace technology. We need to understand what it does. And so many people put their heads in the sand. And my advice to everybody is, look, work out what I do. Around the world, I talk to people about what capabilities the technology has so that we can embrace it on a sort of sensible level and basically introduce those efficiencies, but also understanding the risks.
Speaking as a non-lawyer, it strikes me that a big difference between Britain and many other systems is that many systems are codified, there are articles, but in Britain we rely a great deal on precedent.
Yes.
So we may be looking back at something that happened in 1692, but more likely 1975 or something. Now here I do see that AI can be pretty useful, and I can see here how it could be suggested that AI is going to be better than a human source. Because even if you're going to your computer screen, let alone if you're looking at great volumes of jurisprudence precedent, AI is going to be able to do it better.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the whole idea. It can analyse massive amounts of data in a far more efficient way. It can also prepare initial documents. What it can't do necessarily is the negotiation of the commercial terms and so on and so forth. So what we need to look at, and Sir Geoffrey himself, he pointed out, look, hang on, you still have to have a right to appeal to a human judge, because there will be errors. And whilst we're looking at that sort of side, we do need to be aware of those risks. But we should embrace the technology, understand what it does, and embrace it in that sort of way.
I'm going to take you up on one point. You said that you couldn't see it being used for advocacy, but I certainly can. I mean, not everyone who appears in court is very brilliant. You know, there are some people who are extremely gifted and some who are not. And I can well imagine that AI could replace some of those people.
Well, it's interesting that you raise that, because there is an example. There's an app called Do Not Pay, which claims to be the first lawyer robot out there. And they tried to do a case where they were going to have somebody with their earpods, and they were going to feed them the lines to say whilst they were there. So it's going to be the first trial using AI and an AI robot, albeit remotely. And they were going to give them the lines, but it was found to be in contempt of court, so it didn't proceed. I think it's interesting when you're cross-examining somebody in the witness box. You can turn around and say, well, hang about, this is inconsistent, you said this a little while ago. It can be a powerful tool. And I think that in the current state is very interesting. What we find is ChatGPT, it passed the bar exams, it's passed medical exams. Version 3 was in the bottom 10%. Version 4, however, was in the top 10%. So it's going to get better and better, and that's the thing we should be aware of.
It all lies ahead of us. It's quite interesting that week after week we come back on this programme to subjects that are related to artificial intelligence. Andrew Eborn, thank you very much indeed.